Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Today we're on SpeedGaming bringing you a 3-0 Swiss round match of the Link to the Past Randomizer spoiler tournament. And we have defending tournament champion Kyong against sub 125 vanilla speedrun time g3rd0. So this is going to be an absolute banger of a match, and you could tell me that this one was going to happen in brackets and I wouldn't even blink. Calling this match today, I am Reg. I'm joined by Clearmouse. So, Clearmouse, why don't you teach us a bit about the spoiler format? Let us know what we're...
Oh, sounds good, Ray. So for those of you not too familiar with a spoiler log race, so unlike a regular open seed or any other type of blind race for Link to the Past Randomizer, the runners here actually have access to the spoiler log, which tells them where every single location an item is. You see the timer's counting down 15 minutes to study the spoiler log and route as well as they can to try and defeat Ganon and gather the sun crystals.
Yep, so the spoiler log, in addition to all the items and the fun stuff there, it's got information like the poultry drops for each tier, what the rupee crabs will drop, the stun prize, so that you can try to additionally route that in if it suits you, and we'll see how it goes here as we're off. But yeah, the runners, they know where everything is, and they're just going to try to blaze through as fast as possible here as we see them presumably ride off to the Houlihan room.
Yeah, it looks like both runners are starting out at Sank, going towards right, which is a very strong indication that they're going to do Houlihan, as you mentioned. So there are a couple of reasons why runners want to do Houlihan at the beginning of a spoiler log race. So one is to just have resources. Extra money is always useful. You can buy bombs, you can pay off the bottle vendor, maybe this is money for Pod, this could be money for Zora.
Yeah, and money is an incredibly important resource in spoiler log seeds. Like, the runners do know where everything is, every location. That includes all of the 300 rupee packs that are in the game. But what if, say, 3 of them are in Ganon's Tower and the 4th is in Pendant Turtle Rock? You're not going to have access to those for a very long time, but you still need money for things that you mentioned, so...
Yeah, we see actually some very convenient routing here. They do Houlihan first and spits them right out at Link's house, which has a very convenient bow for them. It looks like both runners are also picking up bombs, so very mirrored routes so far.
Yeah.
Putting those 50 rupees out of 225 to good use. One thing about spoiler log races, in difference to like a blind race, is that so normally in a blind race you are looking for progression items. So and kind of along your path, you're going to pick up what you might consider to be like junk items, right? Maybe 20 rupees, 10 arrows, heart piece. But those things actually do add up, right? So by the time maybe you get to your first boss or your first dungeon, you're gonna probably amass maybe 2 heart containers. And you've got 300 rupees, and maybe you're just looking for the last like 20 or so for a pod or something. For a spoiler log race, because they know where everything is, their path is very, very targeted. So sometimes you could end up in locations where you are short arrows that you need for armos, or bombs that you need for mini Moldor.
Yeah, and that's something that I actually want to call out here. Kyong took a few seconds to detour to the bush crab on the way to Mini Moldorm Cave, which dropped 10 arrow packs for him. Let him dispatch those Mini Moldorms much faster than g3rd0. You saw him getting all those items first, even though he was second to the cave. And he still got 9 bombs in hand, so... I did mention before, that is something that's in the spoiler log, so good heads up by Kyong to see that and include that as a factor in his routing.
There have definitely been more than one match that Kyong has won just over very well-managed resources.
Absolutely, and I mean, defending champion for a reason, as we see him come over to the Uncle Tunnel here, getting a heart container. Looks like g3rd0 is doing the same, but I do want to say that while Kyong did win the first spoiler log tournament, g3rd0 is still absolutely no slouch, and honestly, vanilla speedrun times are very indicative of execution quality usually, even if in Rando there's a lot more factors that go into it. In the spoiler format, there are less factors that go into it than the raw execution. Like, you can't make up a lot of time just by taking a gamble and having it pay off. So, like, we're not going to see g3rd0 falling behind here on the execution front, I don't think.
Yeah, when g3rd0 says he can finish this game quickly, you can take that to the bank.
Yes. So we do see them both right here into the castle. The goods are somewhere in here. It's not that first chest, and there's only 2 left to get down here. Whether it's the boomerang chest or all the way down to the cell.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, when Kyong picked up the bushcraft prize for a couple of extra arrows, he has arrows now to use. As he makes his way through Hyrule Castle, which actually is significantly fast. Well, not significantly, but noticeably faster than g3rd0, which I'll have to just use bomb strats for.
Yeah, and I mean, we could tell from the way he dispatched that blue guard in the room with the map chest, he knows full well what he's doing with those strats. But waiting for bombs to explode and having to finagle them around a little bit, even if you are fully practiced with it, you're losing precious seconds to the arrow strats there.
For runners of this caliber, frames would probably be the difference between these guys.
Yeah, this could very well come down to that. Like, we've seen Kyong's bush crab arrows pay off in spades so far, as they've been following the exact same route, but there's still a lot of game to play here. So.
Oh yeah, and for these kinds of races, for runners of this caliber, like the lead can just change so quickly. Even if you think you have even a 30-second lead, it can change very, very quickly. You have, because these guys are targeting progression items, the number of heart containers and maybe the number of safeties they pick up usually isn't that many. And so, with fewer safeties and say fewer hearts, low percent tends to be a lot more volatile in terms of execution. You are very much vulnerable to, let's say, bosses. So if you die in a dungeon, that is, the lead can change so quickly like that.
Yeah, and speaking of safeties there, we do see both of those runners take a few seconds to dip into Blind's hideout for just a bottle, and then 2 additional heart containers to be had in the well, and 2 medallions. That Quake medallion not actually likely to come into play today, but still there. But we are already on 6 hearts, which is pretty nice by any standard. Actually, g3rd0's on... No, I just miscounted. We're on 7 hearts.
I think you are technically correct, and they have 6 hearts right now out of a possible 7.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
And we actually do see pretty efficient routing from both these runners. They just had, they picked up the flute early, but they didn't end up having to come out to Kakariko to activate it until they've kind of gotten the rest of their stuff, like they made the trip to Hyrule Castle to pick up money.
Yeah, and Hyrule Castle, very notable for not being a flute spot. So the best you could do there was have, with your flute activated, is go to Link's house, the number 4 spot. And that's only marginally faster than a save and quit. So.
Alright, so it looks like we are watching Kyong pull off a fake flipper. So he's going to be able to swim, presumably to Zora, or maybe something's on Hobo, looks like, or... Yeah, they do have the Moon Pearl, so they also could be picking up something from Waterfall Cave here, too.
And they do have the bow, which means that with Splash Elite Magic, the ledge item is available as well. So everything in the region is available, but Kyong is saying no to the Waterfall Cave. It's also worth noting that that bottle that we mentioned earlier turned into the Ether Medallion at Sick Kid, which is our Turtle Rock entry for today. So, even with that being a pendant...
Said, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing to note about these spoiler log races is you might have noticed that the crystals and pendants, including the medallion entries, are already marked on our map. The reason is that because the runners have access to the spoiler log throughout for 15 minutes study period and throughout the entire race, the chances of them doing a map check for us is probably very slim to none. So as a courtesy, our tracker here, star 14681, has very nicely marked all of the pendants and crystals for us.
Yeah, map checks are slow. That's all there is to it. But we do have Dark World access now after we paid 500 rupees for those Titans mitts. Only 36 rupees on Kyong's side. I think g3rd0's total, okay, 51, so slightly more on his side. So that's not enough to play the digging game.
But it might be enough for the chess game.
Yeah, that one's only 30. So if there's something there, although from the way Kyong's walking, doesn't look like there's anything at all in the village or Thieves Town, which is the green pendant. Can't kill blind even if we go into it though, so.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. You know, so these runners got Dark World access normally pretty early, as you might expect from spoiler log race. But they have not had any swords yet so far. Really on not really actually any type of like melee weapon. They've just had the bow so far. I mean, it hasn't really hurt them anyway, but it is notable.
Right. No swords, no hammers, no canes. Can't cast those medallions without a sword either. No rods. So for offense, it really is just that bow, which g3rd0 is still yet to pick up a single arrow this seed, and bombs. But we do see both runners. They grabbed the lamp off Stumpy, and they took the long trip from the village all the way down to Hype Cave. That aforementioned missing hammer, meaning they had to take that long walk.
Let's see, we have a silver pickup. Oh, our first sword. The mirror. We're not going to find out what the last chest is. Thanks, Kyong.
Yeah. Even just those 3 pulls is good enough for us to say Hype Cave really does live up to the name here. Like, that's classic V30, or not V31, but V18 Hype Cave material right there, where you go there, you get all the progression, and you have a party. Incidentally, since we're not going to see it, both of those runners did skip a piece of heart in that last chest of Hype Cave. Just in case chat's curiosity is trying to kill them.
Oh, looks like we have a first magical weapon, which is the Cane of Samaria. Ever since the discovery of some relatively newer tech like Diver Down and specifically Icebreaker, the Cane of Samaria has been a very much more highly coveted item to get for runners.
Yep. The cane has always been the absolute party item for glitched modes specifically, but with Diver Down and Icebreaker being allowed in the normal no major glitches randomizer rule set specifically, those glitches are not allowed for vanilla no major glitches. I should note that for anybody looking to get into that. But for randomizer specifically, it has become the party item among no glitches runners as well.
All right, looks like we see Kyong making his way into Thieves Town. Potentially did not want to come in here, maybe without a weapon that he thought could kill blind with. But now armed with a sword and with the Cane of Samaria, he has multiple options that he can use on blind.
Yep. The sword is the comfortable one for pretty much every runner, but the cane is a fairly popular alternative strat and pretty fun if you're well practiced in it. Of course, this is pendant dungeon, but it is green pendant, so 5 chances at the goods, including the green pendant turn in.
Yeah, and chances are there's not going to be either. Well, so the big chest in Thieves Town is most likely not to have anything that the runners care about, or is just not accessible in this case because Kyong does not have the hammer, so there's no way he's going to be able to access it.
g3rd0's ignoring Thieves Town.
Let's see. This is our first divergence.
Yep. We've had these two following the exact same route thus far, and Kyong was able to get a bit of a time edge on it, but either whatever's in here, well, g3rd0 is deciding to put it off for now. Not sure what he was looking for there, as he misses his bird as well.
Okay, so Kyong does have to be a little careful on the roof here. He only has 2 parts. Right now, he's pretty much in one-hit KO mode.
Yeah, now that he's out of that hallway, it's a lot less dangerous. But like these spikes only do 1 heart of damage. It's basically the actual enemies that do 2. A lot of things do the fixed 1. And I think those starfish enemies do 1 as well. But all the horsehead enemies do 2 on green mail or better. And now we've got g3rd0 turning back around for Thieves Town. So
Yeah, so we just see Kyong, I think, avoid the attic chest. Oh, picking up nice safety. That will, oh man. Well, that was really help him out here. But it seems like then, most likely either Sapashula is going to have something with the green pendant, or Blind himself is going to have something that Kyong wants.
yeah, that bottle was the second chest Kyong had opened in that dungeon after the big key. g3rd0 did grab the small key, but without a hammer, it's not actually going to be particularly useful.
Yeah, I will have to commend Kyong for, in this case, like very targeting just one chest to get the big key. Sometimes the spoiler log, you actually have to kind of get used to reading it, because, and in particular, to know which one is the vanilla map chest and the vanilla compass chest is extremely helpful in this case for knowing where all the items are, or understanding where the items are.
Yep. And we did see Kyong pull out that fighter sword, and the very normal 9-hit fight to down Blind. Blinding very far to the left when that fight finished is a sign of a very well executed fight on Kyong's part. But just to go back to what you were saying a bit, in the spoiler log, the first 4 chests in Thieves Town, well, first 4 being the 4 in the front, not the first 4 in the order they're listed in the log, are the compass chests, the map chest, the ambush chest, and the big key chest. The big key chest is probably a little more obvious given vanilla. It's the last one. But the only way to keep those first 3 straight is a lot of practice and just memorizing it.
Alright, so we see Kyong making his way to Eastern after finishing Thieves Town. So Blind in this case dropped the map and the green pendant. Reg, which one do you think Kyong cares more about?
The green pendant, for sure.
I mean, we didn't do a map check, so I guess that's we have some circumstantial evidence to support your answer here.
Even if we were going to see a map check, this isn't Key Sanity, so picking up the map won't even help with that. So yeah, if you're killing a pendant boss for just a map, then the pendant has to be the value. There's just no other explanation.
Perhaps Kyong had forgotten what the layout was of the dungeon of Thieves Town.
Maybe, but he had to visit every room to get that map anyways.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay, so I think in this case, we see Kyong in Eastern, which is presumably going to be our first crystal clear. He has the bow, well, in specific, actually he has silvers with 30 arrows. I do not believe that he will have any trouble beating Armbows.
Nah, silver arrows absolutely shred that boss to the point where if anything at all goes wrong for him in this dungeon, it's going to be before he gets to the boss. There are a couple of legitimately tricky rooms to do quickly in the back of Eastern Palace here, including the Stark room.
So we also do see g3rd0 pulling off a very nice blind fight, picking up his green pendant, and then we will see where he goes next. And one thing to note that the runners on their way towards Hype Cave in the Dark World is that they both visited Stumpy to pick up the lamp. Especially, so the lamp in this case has a couple of uses. I mean, one is just it's a nice fire source, could be required, but also because, especially if they pick it up so early, like any dark rooms now are going to be illuminated. And while these both these runners have no issues doing dark rooms, just the fact that you can see automatically makes dark rooms go by faster than if you didn't have a lamp.
Yep, and Stumpy is a very in-the-way check when you've got to take that walk from Village of Outcast to Hype Cave. So that was maybe like 10 seconds out of the way for them. Lamp's going to save them that time in just the added stability. As we do see Sahasrara's pride.
Yes, we have a sneak peek from g3rd0. So imagine Kyong, after he exits Eastern, he will beeline it to Sahasrara and get his Master Sword as well.
Yeah, I've got to suspect that that's why he chose to just come and clear Eastern Palace while he was in the area. Because Palace of Darkness is a pendant, and even if it wasn't, we don't have the hammer to go to the Dark World, so clearing Eastern now, no big deal.
Yeah, also very convenient routing in that when Kyong included to 5, Eastern Palace was on the way to Sahasrara. And the difference between having a fighter sword and a master sword in Eastern Palace, especially with silvers, is negligible.
Yeah, there's basically nothing in Eastern Palace that you want to kill using a sword.
So we see, so we see g3rd0 on Death Mountain, picking up a book, a Spectral Rock, and immediately taking it to the Ether Tablet. Very convenient here because he has a Master Sword here. He's going to be able to get the prize, which is a hook shot. Very important item. Not only is it required because Swamp is a crystal, but it's also really great in terms of safety and stun enemies, and also mobility because you can grapple onto signs and rocks. Especially for these guys because they don't have the boots. Any type of mobility will help them out. Looks like g3rd0 realized a little. Well, at least he realized early on that he does not have the hammer yet, so he cannot take this path.
Yeah, having to drop back down the mountain after going up to Hera feels a little bad. But in this case, he's got to do it because he has no other way to the east side, so... Yeah, that's the sort of thing. You very rarely go up to Hera and try to cross that bridge thinking, hey, I can get to East Death Mountain. You basically never do that in a normal seed without the hammer. So...
Yeah, we do see Kyong skipping Hera, Crystal Hera for the time being, so perhaps he will go back later. He does have the hook shot, he does have the Master Sword, so he is able to clear, but perhaps he wanted something else. Or it's just, he can just kind of kill it as his discretion, depending on what his routing wants to be.
Yeah, like, if there's nothing in Tower of Hera that's progression, then in an ideal world, you would like to save it to be your last dungeon before Ganon's Tower.
Alright, so it looks like we do see the main prize from Paradox Cave from both runners. They picked up the hammer, which would have been really useful for g3rd0 about 30 seconds ago. Maybe a minute.
Yeah, but these flippers that Kyong just pulled, no less valuable. We do have Swamp Palace on the crystal list today, so there is no skipping those. And we do have g3rd0 over to the dark side of the mountain. Kyong saying no thanks and is off to the Dark World again.
So we are entering Pendant TR. I wonder what's here for g3rd0 to pick up.
Good question. And honestly, I'm looking at his items and I'm wondering, well, I guess he's not going into the dungeon, but no fire rod can greatly limit how far you can get into TR. It could be anywhere between all the way to Laser Bridge if the keys line up properly, and just one check if they don't. But if he's not going in now and is just opening it up, then not an issue right now.
Oh, looks like he actually just wanted that portal and to go into Hookshot Cave.
Well, Tempered Sword is always very fancy.
A Temper Sword is a very great upgrade from Master Sword. You can see Kyong making great use of his newly found flippers and hammer and hookshot to presumably, well, so he can certainly full clear swap. We'll see how many chests he ends up opening up here.
Yeah, in the best case, it's 0. But coming into the dungeon here, the only way it would be 0 is if the boss is holding the only progression. Although, honestly, looking over our items here, we can get every crystal except 50-50 chance of desert, and we can't get Skull Woods without a fire rod. So we've actually pretty close to all the items we need, and we have barely touched dungeons so far.
Yeah, it definitely seems like most of the progression items have been overworld. I mean, it could be a good thing, or because that probably actually means that you know, if there's not a lot of progression in dungeons, that just means that they can go mode them.
Yeah. Also, Fergus in chat bringing up a great point that I hadn't actually considered before now, but I do want to just mention the blind kill for the Master Sword. In order to get items off of tablets, you need at least the Master Sword, otherwise all you can do is read it. Our third sword was behind that hook shot in Paradox Cave. So, unless the fourth sword is somewhere out in the world before the mountain, that was required. And frankly, from the fact that they did it, I'm guessing that that sword was not available.
We did see Kyong do a very nice and clean King of Samaria dive down that lets him skip the draining of the water in that room and just walk right on top.
Yep. That's not the most fun application of that glitch in the dungeon, but it is certainly the most consistent, and it's a time save, even if it doesn't save you much in the way of backtracking. But we did see Kyong open 0 chests in this dungeon, going straight to the boss.
So one advantage that g3rd0 will have over Kyong here is that he will have tempered when he fights Argus, and as opposed to Kyong, who just has the Master Sword. So the damage difference is that Kyong, you can see that he needs 2 slashes per puff, whereas g3rd0 will only need 1 slash per puff. And if g3rd0 actually knows like the quick kill for Argus, it'll go even faster. Although the quick kill is very, very difficult to actually like execute.
There's the progression. That fire rod means that there's, depending on the desert key layout, roughly a 50-50 chance that we're in go mode, depending on whether we need those Pegasus boots. Although, you do mention a quick kill on Argus. There is actually not a quick kill on phase 1 unless you have the aforementioned boots. He's going to have to do the same hook and pull strat set Kyong was doing, which for the first part of that fight, Kyong was doing very well, grabbing 2 and killing them with the same 2 slashes. g3rd0 obviously going to have an easier time here, 1 pull, 1 slash, but what Kyong was doing there was pretty impressive until it started falling apart about halfway through. And there's g3rd0 missing his silver arrow shot, but nailing the second, so not a huge time loss.
Yeah, so we see Kyong going back up the mountain.
Yeah, given that all we saw on the dark side of the mountain from g3rd0 earlier was a sword, and we now have a fire rod in hand that we didn't before, I've got to imagine that this has to be a Turtle Rock play. Which, the signal to me, as I was sort of saying before, would therefore be the Pegasus boots. Because there's really nothing else that we need.
And the fact that Kyong is coming here without the Ice Rod most likely means that he's not going to need to kill Trinex. Right. Unless the Ice Rod, of course, is in TR, which it's not the first time it's been there, so...
Yeah, but even then, unless the boots or whatever the goods are, I'm assuming it basically has to be the boots, but I could be surprised here. But regardless, unless that's on Trinex directly, we still wouldn't need to kill him even if we come across an Ice Rod.
So we did see Kyong picking up his Master Sword out of Hookshot Cave, and looks like he's going to go back into Turtle Rock. g3rd0 having already opened up the portal, and Turtle Rock, he's just going to be able to dive right in.
Yep, and he's entering just a few seconds behind here. The big difference at this point, of course, being Kyong has already gone through and cleared Eastern Palace and gotten that crystal. g3rd0 hasn't touched that dungeon yet. But on the other hand, if my assumption about the progression in here being the only possible progression in the boots is right, he will have the boots for that dungeon, which will save him some time, because boots in Eastern Palace is so nice. And, of course, rollers with no cape, no cane for safety. So, g3rd0 gonna mirror back to the front of the dungeon. He's gonna grab, presumably, that small key that Kyong grabbed first. And then they'll both be on their way.
Yeah, it looks like they just kind of swapped the order in which they did the rooms.
Yeah, and honestly, I haven't actually timed it to confirm, but if the intent is to mirror out of the roller room, I think I actually like g3rd0's ordering of things better here. It intuitively makes more sense to me. Regardless, both of them do a really good job getting invincibility frames off the blue pegs there, and they have no trouble using that to get around the chain chomps, pick up that key in the chest.
One difference, at least currently now, is that Kyong does have sword beams. It may, I mean, you definitely saw him use it in that chain chomp room instead of using King Samaria for kind of like the last switch hit. I wonder what if it's gonna be, I guess, like to his advantage here. I always forget that the bunny sprite for Kyong's avatar is his Damashin. I always thought that was really cute.
Yeah, like that's my personal favorite sprite to play as well, so I'm well acquainted with it, and I always get a good laugh out of it myself. But I will say, I think that in most situations, sword beams are a disadvantage to have rather than an advantage. Although Kyong did lose his off of an anti-fairy in the Pokey room, he has them back now.
So it looks like nothing of value is going to be in the big chest, nor is there anything I guess the runners care about in Mimic Cave. Skipping Crystal Roller Room here. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in the big chest, yeah, it's just junk. Crystal Roller, actually junk as well. g3rd0 picking it up, revealing that it is a piece of heart. Which I guess really, I mean, he's got 8 hearts, so he's pretty solid on that front. But I guess if you can time a clutch refill in a spoiler by knowing where the heart pieces are, that could be a really big deal. But yeah, we're on to Laser Bridge. I was going to comment on the key counts, but then I realized the last key's on Laser Bridge, so it doesn't really actually matter.
Oh, look at that. I think you were correct in that boots are what we want to hear. Man, boots and pendant TR Laser Bridge.
Yeah.
Must be, yeah. I mean, like, for these runners to go this much out of their way, I mean, boots like almost certainly are required. I mean, there's, like, as much as I think these runners like boots, and having them, is definitely a luxury item and probably not worth it if it's only nice to have as opposed to required.
Right. And then also, at the point that they were entering Turtle Rock, there was no other progression left in the game. The best you could hope for was a fetch quest leading to boots if you wanted to slow things down a bit.
Alright, so having boots, and the fact that they got it, well, I mean, if they needed boots, maybe, getting it early rather than later certainly will help them speed up the rest of the dungeon. But just in terms of what boots will unlock, right, there are Bonk Rocks, there's King's Tomb, and then there are Torch Keys, both in Desert and potentially G2.
Yeah, and from what I recall, the numbers on Desert being locked by the boots is roughly 50-50. But I saw g3rd0 dash, try to escape from dashing into that pit. Wasn't able to. It looked kind of funny, though, so just wanted to call that out a little bit. I enjoyed that. But yeah. A Desert Palace key, a lot more likely than a Ganon's Tower boots lock. But both of them pretty reasonable and possible. Although we have Godmire here with the big key on the bridge. Always love to see that, especially when you're already got all your items.
Yeah, it looks like the runners, right now it's just about, it's almost just pure execution at this point. They don't need any more progression items. Anything else they pick up along the way is just really nice to have.
Yep. It's all about running right to the keys and then right to the bosses. And Kyong is off to the dark. g3rd0 just a couple rooms behind here. Although I say it's about the keys, I think we're going to see Ice Palace and Skull Woods cleared without any big key grabs. Skull Woods, obviously. Ice Palace, probably as well. Although Ice Palace does need a small key from somewhere, I suppose. And then the other thing that we didn't really call out as they were entering, both of them used the flute and moved below the rock when they were fluting to the mire area. That let them set up the spooky action glitch, which you see g3rd0 about to do, thought he was about to do there off the spike, but no. Don't have to do it off the spike because they didn't flip the switch to begin with. You'll see him do it here. And you did see Kyong do it off that torch also as well. Although he was too high the first time, so he had to go up and reset it to avoid getting bunny beamed.
Yeah, it's definitely really commendable for both runners here because it was Godmire. They didn't need to hit the switch the first time, and just out of muscle memory, when you're full-playing Mire on a non-spoiler race log, you're just gonna hit that switch. And the fact that these guys were aware enough to not have to do that is definitely just a testament to their adaptability here.
Yep. Also, g3rd0 showing off some vanilla no major glitches strats using that tempered sword and some damage boosting in that goo to take out the small eyes. He did have the silver arrow, so he could have just plopped one in each like Kyong did, but go with the strat you're comfortable with, and both of these guys are really, really good at vanilla. g3rd0's slightly better judging by personal bests, but we're talking about 124, 125 times anyways, so it's crazy.
All right, so go ahead.
Nah, I was going to say the same thing you were, so go on.
Oh, yeah, so we do see that in this case, boots were absolutely required because the big key to Desert was on the torch. Desert being a crystal, we absolutely have to have that before we can head up the mountain to Ganon's Tower.
Yep. But the nice thing there is that, as we saw both runners do, they can just grab the key, immediately mirror, and practically be at the back door already.
Yeah, this also could be a reason that Kyong chose not to do Hera the first time that he was there, even though he could full clear it. Given that we had to come down the mountain anyway, with the boots to beat Desert, the fact that, as you mentioned, if they just do Hera, Crystal Hera last as their last crystal, they can mirror directly over and then just enter G2 directly.
Yep. And then another minor, I do mean very minor consideration here, is the Hera pot clip. Obviously, with the hookshot being on the ether tablet, both runners could have gone into Hera with it immediately if they so chose, so that they could do that clip. But I do know that a lot of people favor a super speed setup for that clip, which requires the boots, which they wouldn't have had at the time. So look to see if either of them use that sort of setup when they go back to Hera, or if they just prove me a liar and use a bomb setup. But that's land Mola's down for both runners. 4 crystals for Kyong, who's going to take a quick stop to buy red potion, cannot afford blue. And then g3rd0's on 3 crystals, still got to do that Eastern Palace at some point, but you can go wherever you want at this point and clear it.
It looks like both runners are heading into Ice Palace. With the Cane Samaria in hand, this should be an incredibly fast end for these guys.
Yep. Look for them to just hit that crystal switch in the penguin room with the bombable floor, and then backtrack to the other room where we will see Icebreaker. I guess it's the room with the big key chest, just approached from the side that doesn't normally let you to the chest. And hey, we are now fully in sync, frame for frame there.
It's almost like it's almost like a ballet.
Yep, let's see how long it lasts here, because even if the big picture has the dungeon difference between them, this is pretty entertaining. But yeah, there's the crystal switch. Now they'll go back 2 rooms to the east, use the Cane of Samaria to clip through the railing, and get to the chest that has the vanilla big key in it. Kyong taking a sec to grab a small key there.
It looks like
g3rd0
yeah, it looks like g3rd0's going to pick up this small key instead.
Yep. Do need 1 small key to get out of this segment of the dungeon here.
Also on g3rd0's side, so I certainly have seen runners out of muscle memory to continue to, after they pick up the block, to pound the rest of the hammer and then pull the tongue. I'm glad g3rd0 did not do that.
Yeah. Pulling the tongue is a lot more of a concern when you're full clearing the dungeon and thus have to go get the switch to expose the chest. But definitely good presence of mind to know that you don't need to do that because you're going backwards. Now we've got synchronized cold stare fights here. g3rd0 going for Fire Rod to crack the shell. Kyong going to use Bombos. Let's see which one. I would expect g3rd0's strat to be significantly faster here, especially if he gets this. Ooh, that he took a hit there.
Oh man.
I think he was trying to pause buffer the dash poke there to switch to mirror so that he could get out. But because he took the hit there, it turns out Kyong's fight is significantly faster with the Bombos Fire Rod combo.
Yeah, I think g3rd0 used his red potion earlier, so he does have to be careful. But he still gets cold stare down.
Yeah, he did get it down, and did a good job avoiding taking further damage there, but that was, unfortunately, time loss that he really can't afford to be eating at this point when he's already got an Eastern Palace he's got to do that Kyong's already done.
All things considered, though, g3rd0 did follow the first unwritten rule of spoiler log race, is that don't die.
Yeah, that's kind of important. So good job there.
Yeah, I mean, even if he did have a slower cold stair fight, maybe he lost, let's say, 15 to 20 seconds to Kyong over on that Ice Palace clear. But if he had died, going back to cold stair, even going through Icebreaker is at least probably a minute, right?
Yeah, like when you're playing a spoiler format, or actually, really, this applies to normal rando too, but there are some places that are just terrifically slow to die, and pretty much every boss room is one of them. Anyways, just to answer something in chat that came up real quick. Cold Stare is immune to arrows. That includes the silver arrows. And the only bosses you can actually hit with the arrows, you can hit the Armos Knights, you can hit the Landmolas, you can hit Helmasaur King after you knock his mask off with bombs or hammer. You can hit Argus after clearing out all of its puffs. And you can hit Vitreous. If I did not name the boss, it cannot be hurt by the silver arrows. Anyways, Skullwoods. Kyong waiting out that Wallmaster drop because quirk of the original Japanese game, which the randomizer is built on top of, Wallmaster can grab you if he falls while you're falling down a pit. And you will get taken back to the start of the dungeon.
Not that it applies to these runners here because they have tempered. But one also difference from the randomizer and the vanilla game is that due to a feature of the vanilla game, because the butter sword does spike damage, it can't actually harm Mothula. As a quality of life improvement patch in the randomizer, if you come here with butter sword to try and kill Mothula, it'll do the same damage as tempered.
Yeah. You can take advantage of spikes and gold sword doing the same class of damage for some enemies by just knocking them into spikes. That's a fairly common strat with the g3rd0 that has the key a few rooms before Mothula. You just use your sword, knock it into the spike, and it takes gold sword damage instead of what your actual sword is. But yeah, Moth is fun. And do note that last I heard, that adjustment they made to the gold sword to let it hurt Mothula does not apply to spin attacks. That includes the tempered sword spin attack. So if you're fighting Mothula with tempered or better, stick to slashes. Anyways, here's where we're seeing Kyong's great play at the start, both stuff like even stuff as minor as getting arrows out of the bush crab to let him do a lot of things quicker than g3rd0, who was relegated to bomb strats. This is where it's paying off for him. We see g3rd0 in Eastern Palace, which is going to be his 6th crystal. But Kyong is already climbing Death Mountain on his way to Tower of Hera for the 7th.
Yeah, even though g3rd0 is about a dungeon, one Eastern Palace full clear dungeon, it will go pretty fast. But I think probably also one difference now is he still needs to climb back up Death Mountain, which is probably at least another minute.
Yeah. And hey, here's Kyong going with a super speed based setup for Herapot. Not getting it immediately. Could spend a lot of time here, but gets it on the 2nd try. And now Kyong is on the 5th floor of Tower of Hera.
Alright, so with Temper Sword, Kyong should not have any issues. And one nice thing about having a Temper Sword as opposed to the hammer is that the sword is also very defensive. Oh, did he accidentally poke Moldorm instead?
He poked. Does get the dash through, though, to finish it off there. Yeah, you say Tempered Sword means no problems, but you've got to be careful about those pokes because you can still enrage him. The Gold Sword's the only one that really guarantees no problems because you have to poke him twice to screw that one up.
Kyong, if you're watching, I'm sorry for jinxing you.
And then speaking of difficult rooms in the back of Eastern Palace, these two red Igors, not playing the nicest for g3rd0, but he gets it and he's on to the Armos. And that was quick, even by Silver Arrow standards. Goodbye, Armos Knights.
Alright, so we do see Kyong entering GT. So normally, right, we play a mini game, guess where the GT big key is, 1 through 22. In a split log race, because these runners already know where the GT big key is, chances are the number of checks that they're going to make in the Ganon's Tower is going to be very few. So instead of guessing a number, try and guess the actual location.
Yeah. With Tower of Hera being the last crystal today and the absolute speed to get to the Ganon's Tower from there, didn't really have time to give the spiel till Kyong was already in the tower, but oh well. Big key in the Stalfos room today. Kyong making good use of iframes off that orange peg to get through that spike room just a bit quicker, and without sacrificing any real health in the process.
One minor routing decision for GT is that, you know, everyone is very focused on finding the GT big key, which is certainly very important. The other, I would say, more overlooked is that you want at least one small key before climbing. Sometimes, so you always have one small key off of the mini Helmosaur, but right after that room, you will need another key to get to Moldorm 2, and that door sometimes has definitely blocked runners.
Yep. Good news for both runners really here, although especially Kyong given his lead, is that there are no small key doors between the entrance to Ganon's Tower and the big key today. So he can just take that key under the pot in the hammer room, the one immediately after the torch, and just go with that.
Alright, so we did see g3rd0 in Tower of Hera, also pulling off the Hera pot with some pause buffering, but also with the super speed.
Yeah,
so
and if super... No, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so let's see what kind of luck he gets with Moldorm and Tempered Sword.
Yeah, no rage for him there, getting that spin cleanly after the slash. But yeah, both of these runners showing a preference for super speed strats on the Hera pot clip. So even if Tower of Hera right into Ganon's Tower wasn't the ideal to begin with, that's a pretty good reason to wait for boots before coming to this dungeon, which they did both choose to do. Also, chat's asking about it, so... These runners did walk right by the fourth sword. Neither of them wanted their gold sword out of Mimic Cave. So... I don't think either of them need it, though.
I do wonder sometimes if it's also just like a memory, a muscle memory like comfort thing. You know, so especially with the NMG runs, right? You will never have the butter sword. You always have tempered. So all of the timings, regardless of how minor it could be, they just get used to the tempered sword. So like, so even sometimes when runners have the butter sword, unexpected things can happen that can just catch runners off guard.
on one hand, I do think that might be a consideration, especially at the level of comfort these two guys are and their skill with the vanilla game. But at the same time, all the gold sword really does is it adds consistency to things. It doesn't actually speed anything up. Like, you're not gonna kill... Oh, well, let me say, you could kill, like, Cold Stare Trinex a little bit faster, I guess. But on average, these guys in particular are not killing Ganon any faster with a gold sword than a tempered sword, for example. I think Kyong almost got a double triple there on Aga 2. Yeah.
Yeah, this is... No, I was just gonna say, fighting Aga 2 is probably one of the most unpredictable bosses.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, if you get 2 cycles, you're a god, but that's frequently impossible due to the fact that Aghanim's main body in that fight can shoot a blue ball, just like in the first Aghanim fight at the top of the Light World Tower. So 2 cycles, often impossible, but obviously perfect if you can get it. 3 cycles, sometimes just RNG says no to that again. But if you can get it, that's great. 4 is where it starts to feel a little bit iffy. So we see Kyong there. He got the Trident spin on phase 1 and just doing work inside the Fire Bat circle there. And that's why Gold Sword does not save any time on Ganon. Like, he literally could not have saved any time by having the Gold Sword there at all. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, Kyong is certainly outside of the most dangerous phases of Ganon.
Yep. He's now just got to plink 3 more arrows in. Doesn't get a torch glitch there, but I think that was intentional because he's got a triple set up there. Doesn't get it, though.
The fact that he missed the triple probably won't cost him the race, unless something catastrophic happens right now. Kyong is...
Yeah, let's not talk about that. Kyong's across the bridge with a time of 55 minutes and 54 seconds, so that's GG's and congratulations to him. And we do have g3rd0 entering the Moldorm 2 fight right now, so he's not going to be far behind at all.
As expected from Kyong, a very solid display of execution, very, very well done routing. Very, very impressive run.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that was an absolute treat this seed to watch. Especially, like, some of the heads-up stuff he had in the early game, but right now we've got g3rd0 in Aga 2, and on the execution front, g3rd0 has not been any worse here. Honestly, on the routing front, he even had that delaying that Eastern Palace that I really liked to let him come back to it with boots. That saved a little bit of time there just on the route itself. But there were just a couple other things. g3rd0 just bled out time here and there on the route. And he's now about to drop in Ganon just a couple minutes after Kyong.
Yeah, as you mentioned, their routing was actually pretty similar. There were, but yeah, I think one major difference was that g3rd0 had a slower coaster fight, for example. It's just kind of like little things here and there, as you mentioned. Can definitely. I mean, these guys aren't, like the timing difference isn't very far apart, but like these little things just add up.
Yeah, we do have g3rd0. He got the Trident spin there, so he's got the 1 cycle phase 1, and we are basically watching a repeat of Kyong's fight here. as he goes and dashes through and dodging the fire bats from inside the circle. 1 cycle phase 2. Now I just got to put up with the warps.
Yeah, I'm glad g3rd0 chose a different sprite to use than Kyong. Otherwise, I probably couldn't tell these guys apart in terms of execution.
Yeah, both obviously ridiculously good at this game. And there's the last warp, so now it's just how quickly can g3rd0 get 4 arrows into Ganon here. And will he take advantage of Torch Glitch? Yes, he will, actually. Not going to try to set up a triple like Kyong had, but just going to plunk 4 single arrows in instead, and you got to actually shoot it. There you go.
Still a very clean fight from g3rd0.
Yep. As soon as that bridge spawns, it's going to take a set, cross it, and finish with a time of 59 minutes and 17 seconds. So GG's to him as well.
What a display of execution from both runners. Very, very solid. I mean, really, like, for how much these runners had to do, both sub-hour this, is quite amazing.
Yeah, and we do have both runners in here with us now, so GG, both of you. Congratulations, Kyong.
GG's, guys.
Big shout-outs to the bush crab. I just want to get that out there first.
Yeah, GG to Kyong. Congrats.
Stinks. That was a tricky scene.
Yeah, like, we didn't realize the Thieves Town requirement for that sword until well after the fact when chat brought it up. I couldn't figure out why you had done it, but yeah, just casual 3 swords behind blind.
Yeah, it was interesting because the city itself was quite short because there really wasn't that much inside dungeons, right? Like pretty much on the fire rod at the boss of Swamp.
Yeah, and then the boots.
The overall world was definitely tricky. Zora seeds are also always... It definitely puts additional strain to trying to optimize your route.
Well, I think you both had the route pretty well optimized through your first Dark World trips. Like, you were right on each other going through as far in as Hype Cave. And then, g3rd0, what was going through your head with the... after that, basically? Like, Kyong went right into Thieves Town, and you mentioned in IRC that you just misread the tablets. Is that just all there was to that?
Yeah, I didn't realize. Like, first thing is I forgot that we needed a Master Sword to get the hook from tablet. So I went to the Bombo's tablet because I thought, dude, I'm just getting hook here, and then I go to Death Mountain, right? I don't know why Kyong's going to Thieves Town. But on my way there, I realized I can't get this tablet, and then I also realized I'm at the wrong tablet anyway. So from there on out, you know, it was pretty much over there.
Yeah.
So I should just trust my opponents more, is what I learned from this going forward. Unless they are looking for big keys.
I do sort of hate to say it, but I think, honestly, yeah, the way things played out, you guys were playing even enough on the execution side of things that was the big point in the race.
It would have been close. I think he would have won anyway, even if I went into Thieves Town. Like, the gap was, what was it, like 3.5 minutes or something. Probably would have lost by a little anyway, so I am not too bummed out.
Yeah. I mean... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, in terms of execution, g3rd0, I don't really think there was that much of a difference. You might have bled like a second here or there, but I think one of the main differences though was your pollster fights. So I think the plus kind of got away from you, and Kyong ended up just kind of annihilating pollster pretty quickly.
Yeah, I messed that up. I hit him with the first spin. I hit him too far up instead of right, which is the double poke setup. But I don't go for double poke. But I forgot I don't. So that.
Yeah. Cold Stare's a really finicky fight to begin with, so it happens. I mean, this is just a really taxing and challenging format to begin with, so sometimes you get games like this.
Yeah, after realizing what happened with g3rd0, I was completely into okay, let's not die mode, basically. Not make mistake. That's also why I ended up just using bombs on coaster just in case. And like never happened before to me. But if I somehow miss a fire out shot, or if that's why I bought a potion as well, just trying to make sure I can keep a lead.
Yeah, big shout outs to being 20 rupees shy, being able to afford blue.
Yeah.
Money was super tight this seed regardless. Like, you had to Houlihan and then go into the castle for nothing but a 300 to be able to afford Zoro. And then there just wasn't anything else really in the way.
Yeah, there was no way around that. I knew I lost when I went to Mini Moldom Cave and I saw Kyong get arrows on the bush crab, and that was 2-5 head for me, you know. I knew right there I cannot mess with this guy. So, like, I don't know who else would have looked at the bush crab price there to get arrows to do Mini Moldom Cave faster. I don't know if anyone else would have done that.
The first thing I check on the spoiler log is the price, dungeon prices. Then I check the trees and crabs, and then I check if Zara is required. That's literally my first 3 steps. Because that changes a lot the rest of how you think about the seed.
Okay, anybody in chat looking to get into this format, listen to what that guy just said and take it to heart.
Yeah, this is good advice for you, g3rd0, for your next match here.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I don't know. I won't do that though. I have different strategies.
Yeah, I think really the most important thing is to find the system that works for you and stick to it, especially with as much information as you get in these logs and how little time you have to digest it. But there's so many factors that go into it, and it's just obnoxiously difficult to do on the fly.
Yeah, so I guess I was curious. So I think I noticed in the spoiler log that there was a mail upgrade in the back of Escape. So I guess like what goes through your heads, when you if you have like an early or easy to accessible mail versus like picking up like containers along the way.
I think the mail was probably worth getting it in the end, but I was kind of 50-50 on getting it or not, because it's back of Escape is about 40 seconds, so it's not trivial. It's definitely not a trivial time loss, because safety is a really hard thing to judge, because technically you don't need them until you actually do need them, right? So it's really hard to judge sometimes, especially against somebody with a really good execution as well.
Yeah, I would have gotten that mail normally, but I wasn't. Kind and having to make up time somehow. Cause you get a lot of time back just by being able to play more risky, you know.
Yeah, and then if your opponent takes a death somewhere that you don't, that's a huge time gain as well. But you've got to weigh that into the time it takes to get the safety to begin with, and then will it even matter? Like, obviously, this seed, neither of you died, obviously, so having blue mail, like, maybe you could have played more aggressive in certain boss fights, like, say, Cold Stare, but the time save of just having that aggression in your back pocket versus the time it took to actually go get it, it's hard.
Yeah, I was very happy that you didn't die at Cold Stare, g3rd0.
Yeah, I was as well.
I mean, Vitrios as well. That was super close.
Yeah, with the lightning bolt. Yeah. I messed up at the very end of phase 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually kind of happy to see you just show off the vanilla strat for it, even though you had silver arrows, and show that no, it's not
Yeah.
actually
I
that much
was a
slower.
little low on arrows the entire seed until the very end, because I didn't get that bush grab.
Well,
I don't know
strat
if
for MVP.
I probably would have barely had enough arrows to do video just with silvers, but it isn't a time loss to do him with the NMG strat. If you pull it off properly, of course, which I did not.
No, but you were close enough that it was still very minor at most, I think. I mean, the only time loss you really had there was what, the time it took him to shoot the lightning?
Yeah, it's a 1 cycle with 0 cycle. Still
Yeah,
one lightning. Yeah.
that's only a couple seconds, which when you're making up for not having arrows in that way, I think you'll take that most of the time.
Yeah, I'm normally confident in getting all the burst strats, but I'm a little bit rusty. As was maybe apparent if you were watching closely.
Did the I guess it's like 3 a.m. over there, g3rd0, for you? Like,
Oh yeah, it is. But that's not a factor in this. I am on the full need no life sleep schedule at the moment, so that is not an excuse.
Nah,
Well,
I mean,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go on.
Oh no, I was gonna say. So I mean, at least the upside is that next week you don't have to face Kyong.
Yeah, I mean there's 2 players in this tournament where I don't see myself favored, and Kyong was one of them. So it can only get easier, pretty much. I will not tell who the second is, but I think it should be apparent.
Well, so you guys are the first 3-0 match, so certainly we won't know Kyung's next opponent because we'll still need the other 3-0s to finish. But one of those matches could also be your future opponent, g3rd0, depending on how things go.
Yeah. It's gonna be a 3-1 player. It's gonna be a loser of a 3-0 match or winner of a 2-1. Like, I am trusting that I won't face the other opponent I don't want to face next round, so...
The odds are in your favor, certainly.
Yeah.
Alright, Kyong, is there anyone that you would be looking forward to face next week?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Well, eventually, like there's 3 weeks still, so I'm probably gonna face a lot of the strong people out there still. We'll see what happens. That's the exciting part of Swiss, just getting matched up against similar records. Makes for things to be very intense for basically everybody in the tournament.
Yeah, the matches definitely get a lot more interesting and a lot more intense once things start shaking out properly and you get the guys at the absolute top going against each other for seeding, and the guys in the middle tend to be pretty similar skill level as they've gotten through to like 3-3, 4-2 towards going into week 7, and that makes for a lot of really interesting things.
I'm sure a fan favorite would be a Portuguese showdown.
Yeah. I'd like to see the Portuguese showdown. Because it's a little known fact, but Furame is a scholar of Kyong, and they will have the same style. It will come down to epic execution. Everyone should look forward to that.
No pressure, Kyong. Yeah, and I just want to say thank you both so much for putting on one heck of a show for us. It was thoroughly enjoyable to watch. I mean, this was, as soon as I saw you guys being matched up, I was definitely just constantly refreshing the schedule page to see like when you guys would play. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys for the commentary and the restream.
Yeah, same.
Yep. Wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys putting on the show, but also while we're here, want to give big shout outs to the Tracker Star, keeping everything lit up, keeping chat informed on everything that's going on. So thanks. And then, yeah, I think that about does it for us, unless you've got anything more you want to close out on, Clear Mouse?
No, I was just maybe just one last thought about thank you so much for coming with me, Reg. It was a blast in the commentary booth with you.
Yep, and one hell of a race to do it with, too. So you don't get to see guys as good as these two go against each other every day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again so much, guys, for putting on a great show for us.
And I think with that, that'll be it for us. I've been Reg, and my partner's been Clear Mouse, and we'll see you over some other match.
Have a great night, guys.